right, let's start off. I downloaded the raw file. Looks like it's a Nikon. So let's bring it into Photoshop because I'm going to be using Photoshop CS5. All right, so we bring it in. Should open up in Camera Raw. Here we go. So we're in Camera Raw. You guys all know I just do basic Camera Raw editing. I do most of my work in Photoshop. But I do want to do some simple things. I want to warm it up a little bit. So maybe I'll go to daylight. No, maybe cloudy. Yeah, let's see. That'll give it a little bit of an orange tint to it. Or I'm sorry, yellowish tint to it. It's a little. I might bump the exposure just a bit, not too much, because I do most of my work in Photoshop anyway. So just want to bring it up just a little bit. Want recovery? No. Don't want to do fill lights? No. Blacks? Not really. I think I'm going to do most of my work in Photoshop anyway. Maybe a little clarity just to sharpen a little bit. Doesn't look to be too bad. It looks pretty it's a little blurry. It looks like there's a little bit of camera shake, but not too bad. It'll be fine. I can already see I'm going to probably get rid of this stick or whatever that is. Okay, so one thing I do want to show everybody, if you hold down, when you're in Camera Raw, and you're going to open up your image after you've done your basic editing, if you hold down the Shift key, it will open it up as a smart object. See how it changes to object? When I hold down the Shift key, it changes to object right here. If you open it up as a smart object, what it does is basically after you do all your editing in Photoshop or whatever and you want to go back, you can always just double click the smart object icon and you can go back to your Camera Raw and change all your settings again, so they're not locked into the file, which is kind of cool. I mean, once you save it as a JPEG or a TIFF or whatever your final thing is going to be, they're locked in, but as long as you have it as a Photoshop file, they won't be locked in, and whatever moves you make, once you hit OK, it will actually update. Alright, so let's get started on this. The first thing I want to do is, this is really distracting me. I don't really feel like I'm going to clone it out. It's a little too much work for this show, for this edit. I want to keep it a little quick. I think I went a little long last time, so I'm probably going to bring this down just a tad, but maybe the eye needs to be just a little higher because of the reflection. Might want to be a little more centered. I don't want it perfectly centered. I definitely want it to be on the lower side. So I think about there's right. Let's make sure we don't get any of that in there. I think about that works. Okay, so let's crop that. Perfect. All right, now the first thing I do with every edit is just kind of look at it. I just want to make sure there's nothing, that needs to be cloned out, or if there is something to clone out. It looks pretty good. There might be something there, but I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to worry about that. Oh, that's distracting. This little thing is bugging me a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to just get rid of that real quick. I'm going to make a layer. I'm going to name it Clone Out Feather. Okay, so let's do that. I'm just going to use my clone tool. Probably could use a healing brush, but no, I think the clone tool is going to be the best for this. Just make sure you have all layers so that it samples all layers below it. And this is just a real easy cloning job. Where's my palette? Let's see. I don't like the shape dynamics it's doing. So let's just clone this out really quickly. Just take your time, do it slow, it'll be fine. I'm going to have some layers on top of it anyway, so it doesn't have to be too perfect yet. So, it's such a small area that maybe I'll just kind of brush over it a little bit just to clean up that just a little bit. Have you noticed that when you paint stuff in or when you clone things in, you can totally see that you lose some of the noise? So it's okay though, because I always add noise at the end of my images just to clean things up and make sure everything kind of matches. So that'll be fine. That'll be perfect. You can barely tell once you actually zoom out. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, let's see, what do I want to do? Let's see, this green area is kind of distracting down here. I know it's some kind of tree or something, but I think I'm going to kind of just paint that out. Airbrush, water. All right, so what I want to do is I'm just going to take a brush, really soft brush. Yeah, see, I'm using a really soft brush. And just like at 5% flow so that it flows really slowly and gently. Select some of that yellow, take some of this, sample some of this yellow. Holding down the option key brings up the eyedropper tool, so you can just sample the colors around it, and I'm just going to kind of airbrush it out just a little bit. I want to have some of that texture back there, but I'll probably reduce my opacity a little bit to bring some of the texture back. I'm also going to do a little bit on this side just to get rid of, there's a little darkness right at the end that I'm just going to get rid of. Just check all the edges, make sure everything's okay, and then I'm probably going to bring the opacity down just a little bit to bring it back just a little bit, but not so distracting. So I'm probably going to bring it down to, I usually go around 65, that's a little too little. Try 70. 75 maybe. That looks good. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. Perfect. Next thing I want to do is the eye. I'm going to work on that eye. I think I need both brightness and contrast, and I'm going to use a curve for both. Let's do a curve. Let's do the first one will be, let's do a contrast curve first. Contrast. So to add contrast in a curve, you basically want to lower the darks a little bit and raise the highs. And I'll show you in a second what I'm doing here. If you go back, this curve is affecting everything, which I don't want it to do, not yet. I'm not working on the whole thing right now. I'm working on the eye. So this mask, I'm just going to fill it with black. I hit Command Delete, by the way. And just mask out the eye. Now, 0 on my brush. I do a lot of stuff with my brushes. I just paint it in. It's just the way I work. Let's see, is that doing anything? Yeah, see, it's contrasting it just a little bit. I think I need to push. Yeah, let's see, maybe it's a little bright. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so I'm brushing it out, making sure it's working. Okay, so that will help my contrast, and I think I need to be a little brighter, so I'm going to use another curve. Curve. And I'm going to make it brighter. This curve is just going to be a brightness curve, so I'm just going to push the curve up. And again, I got to fill it with black so I can mask it out just for the eye. Use the blacks. Okay, perfect. That got really, really bright. Let's see, I might reduce the opacity of this a little bit just so that it's bright but not so bright. I'm probably going to go about 80. Around there. Let's try 80. Okay, and this is a lighten eye. Lighten eye. Okay. Next, I want to work on the overall. This image, I thought about black and white at first, but I don't think so. I think this image is all about the color. I'm definitely going to keep it color. And I want that color to really pop, so I'm definitely going to work on the saturation. I'm going to bring in a hue saturation adjustment layer, and I am going to pump up the saturation quite a bit. I think I'm going to probably going to go around the 20s. Let's see, 25 maybe? That looks pretty good. Yeah, see how that color just really is popping now. Okay, so we did that. Next I'm going to do, if you saw my last edit, you'll notice that I use gradient maps a lot, and I kind of warm it up a little. I want to warm this up a little, so I'm going to use one of my preset gradient maps that I made. It's not that one. I just have this, I have a bunch of gradients that I've made. This orange one that I do, which kind of goes black to, you know, like a reddish orange to an orange to a yellow to a white, seems to work really well for me. If you keep seeing that I'm looking over here, this is my second monitor and I'm looking at some other palettes. I am going to go ahead and use that and bring it way down. I'm talking like 10 or 15%. Let's start with, let's try 10. That looks pretty good, I think. Let's see what 15% looks like. 15% might be a little too much, I think. I think I'm going to go with 10. And I think, let me see what it looks like with overlay. Well, actually, with overlay, I might want to go 15. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like that one. I'm going to go a little less. I'll go 10. Okay, so that warms it up a little bit, but still keeps some of the nice green colors and stuff in the background. Next, I'm going to work on the actual duck. The duck got a little dark, or, you know, there's a lot of really bright colors in the background, so I'm going to make this duck just a little brighter. So I'm going to use levels for this, and I'm really going to pop him up. Let's see. really gonna lighten them up, but I gotta make sure I lighten the mids, but I just want to make sure you add the black, because if not, you lose some of the contrast. And maybe add some highlights too. Let's see. I think that looks pretty good for now. It lighten everything, which I don't want. I'm going to mask it out. So again, fill my mask with black, and I'm going to paint out the duck itself with white on that mask, on this mask right here. So if I paint out the duck, you'll see the duck gets brighter, and the rest of the image is going to stay like that, because the beauty of masks. All right. Let's see. I just need to come in here, and I usually would go in a lot finer, you know, come in real close and make sure I don't get anything, because one thing I hate about retouching this way is sometimes you get those glows right outside the animals when you miss your lines, and I hate that. So I'm gonna make sure I come in real tight and work on just the edges a little bit. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's make sure we get a nice bright duck. All right, next. Oh, I like that. Okay, so let's try. I guess at this point, the one thing I want to do is I want to sharpen a little bit. You got a little bit of that. I think he's got a just, you know, ever so slight camera shake that I want to get rid of. Here's one thing about retouching. You can't get rid of blurs. You can't get rid of camera shake. You can't get rid of. You can try to contrast it and try to sharpen and try to do anything you can, but the best retouching is done on great images. So the better the image, the better the retouching. Every single time, no questions asked. I'm just gonna make him a little brighter. I want to duplicate that layer because I'm gonna put on some stuff. No, I don't like it. It's too bright. All right, so let's try to sharpen it a little bit. I'm gonna select all of these. Select all my layers, copy them, and then I'm going to merge all those layers that I just copied into one layer. Basically, it's the same layer, but it's a flattened layer. I'm going to do a high pass filter on it. Filter other high pass. 10 is way too much. I don't know why it said so. I never use that much. I always use like 2 or 3. With this image, I think I'm going to go 3 so I can try to get rid of some of that camera shake. If you go to overlay, I think that sharpened it quite a bit. Yeah, see, that definitely helped. That sharpened the duck. Problem I see is it also sharpened the background, so we don't want that. We don't want all this grain to sharpen up. So again, I'm going to create a mask, and I'm going to make it all black. So this layer is not affecting anything, and I'm going to paint with white back into my duck so that that mask affects this duck and not anything else. So a lot of people don't like to work with their brushes. People like to use the pen tool or stuff like that and really get detail. I actually like to use my brush because I like to paint things in. Reminds me of coloring books, you know? Just kidding. I just like to use my brush because I feel it's the way I work. All right, so did that do anything? Of course it did, right? Yeah, see, it totally sharpened it. Maybe I even duplicate that and sharpen that some more. Definitely not that much, but I do want to try, I don't know, about bring it down to 50%, second one. Yeah, look at that. That looks good. Okay, so next, what do we want to do? Just kind of want to contrast it a little bit, I guess. I want a little bit more contrast in this. So I'm going to throw in a curve. Another curve. This is going to be a curve. Now that I've worked on just the duck, I want to work on the overall image. So I'm going to throw a curve that's going to contrast the entire thing. So throw a contrast curve. It's just, and you know, with these curves in Photoshop, it's just slight movements. You never want to go too far or anything. You can always build up. You know, it's better to build up. So that's good. That actually added a lot of punch. Look at that. Yeah, definitely. All right. Now, what do we want to do here? I want to do a. Think